One of the most exciting scientific findings of the past half-century has been the discovery of widespread trophic cascades. A trophic cascade is an ecological process which starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. And the classic example is what happened in the Yellowstone National Park in the United States when wolves were reintroduced in 1995. Now, we all know that wolves kill various species of animals, but perhaps we're slightly less aware that they give life to many others. Before the wolves turned up, they'd been absent for 70 years. That the numbers of deer, because there was nothing to hunt them, had built up in the Yellowstone Park, and despite efforts by humans to control them, they'd managed to reduce much of the vegetation there to almost nothing. They'd just grazed it away. But as soon as the wolves arrived, even though they were few in number, they started to have the most remarkable effects. First, of course, they killed some of the deer, but that wasn't the major thing. Much more significantly, they radically changed the behavior of the deer. The deer started avoiding certain parts of the park, the places where they could be trapped most easily, particularly the valleys and the gorges. And immediately those places started to regenerate. In some areas, the height of the trees quintupled in just 6 years. Bare valley sides quickly became forests of aspen and willow and cottonwood. And as soon as that happened, the birds started moving in. The number of songbirds, of migratory birds, started to increase greatly. The number of beavers started to increase because beavers like to eat the trees. And beavers, like wolves, are ecosystem engineers. They create niches for other species. And the dams they built in the rivers provided habitats for otters and muskrats and ducks and fish and reptiles and amphibians. The wolves killed coyotes, and as a result of that, the number of rabbits and mice began to rise, which meant more hawks, more weasels, more foxes, more badgers. Ravens and bald eagles came down to feed on the carrion that the wolves had left. Bears fed on it too, and their population began to rise as well, partly also because there were more berries growing on the regenerating shrubs. And the bears reinforced the impact of the wolves by killing some of the calves of the deer. But here's where it gets really interesting. The wolves changed the behavior of the rivers. They began to meander less. There was less erosion. The channels narrowed, more pools formed, more riffle sections, all of which were great for wildlife habitats. The rivers changed in response to the wolves. And the reason was that the regenerating forests stabilized the banks so that they collapsed less often, so that the rivers became more fixed in their course. Similarly, by driving the deer out of some places and the vegetation recovering on the valley sides, there was less soil erosion because the vegetation stabilized that as well. So the wolves, small in number, transformed not just the ecosystem of the Yellowstone National Park, this huge area of land, but also its physical geography.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
You know, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater-fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple, and they add up, and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you know, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues, and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Baby, it's cold outside. 5 degrees here in Washington, D.C., which is probably 5 degrees higher than it is where you are. But damn it, it's cold for the nation's capital. Hello, everybody, and a happy Friday. Yep, even a cold 5-degree Friday is a good Friday, right? And this one, Friday, February 2020. Happy Friday, folks. Man, I'm glad to see this Friday come around. Man. Yeah. We have been struggling all week here with a voice. Hope it's a little better today. And keeping up with the flow of the show and the flow of the news every day, because the world doesn't stop just because I might have a sore throat. I mean, you know, what the hell, right? It might for some people, doesn't for me, but we keep up with it nonetheless.
That's right.
And we thank you for joining us here on the Bill Press Show. This Good Friday, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. And Peter, tell people how they can find us.
You can find us all over the place. You can find us on Twitter at BP Show. You can find us on the website at Bill Press Show. You can be a fan of ours on Facebook, facebook.com/Bill Press Show. So check us all out, man.
Basically, there's no way to escape.
You can't get away from us.
Right, exactly.
You cannot get away from us.
If you are not listening or watching the show, then you have made a special effort not to.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Because otherwise, we're there.
You know how you say the Cocktopus? They call them the Cocktopus because the Koch brothers have so many different outlets that you can't get away from them. We're kind of like that.
Yeah.
We're like the Billipede. So many legs of the show that go out into all different areas. You can't get away from us.
I don't like being compared to the Koch brothers. Maybe you can find another.
I'll see if I can find a better analogy.
Or an insect.
Yeah.
Yeah, or an insect. Right.
Hey.
Okay.
I'm trying here.
On this Friday, we look forward to hearing from you at 866-55-PRESS. That's our toll-free number. And you can send us your comments also on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. It is, you think it's cold here? It was sub-zero in Chicago yesterday. We checked. All of our good friends at WCPT, everybody out there in Chicagoland, welcome, welcome, welcome. Officially, it's 2 degrees. 2 in Chicago. But you know what? Coming off that lake, the wind chill, it's probably -10.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
At least.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that really, when the winds kick in like that,
I'm telling you, I've been there.
There's no escaping it.
No.
I don't care what kind of coat you have or hat you're wearing.
No. Long underwear, put on 3 pairs.
Yeah, really.
And so the president yesterday went out to Chicago to dedicate this national monument at the Pullman community there, and the president said he made history.
It's always been a dream of mine to be the first president to designate a national monument in sub-zero conditions.
And there he was, and of course he said, "This is what we call Chicago today."
Also known as Chiberia.
Chiberia. Yeah, how about that? Coming in off. Well, you know, I hope you realize you guys are lucky. It is 5 degrees here. I checked because I told Carol last night, if it is anything less than 5 degrees, if it's 4 degrees, I'm not going to work.
Okay, well.
Yeah. So
well, we were lucky.
I checked. That's right. If it had been 1 degree colder.
Does that apply to everybody?
Depends on what kind of A little standard you set, right? Lots coming up today. Susan Page from USA Today joins us as she does every Friday. We're going to talk to the Elizabeth Warren campaign. Of course, she's not a candidate, so it's not officially a campaign, but they're trying to get her to run. We'll talk with them. And Leo Gerard, the president of the United Steelworkers, leading steelworkers of America in several strikes against refineries in this country right now. Leo Gerard will be joining us as well. So lots coming up. And Rudy Giuliani, now the most hated politician in America, or should be. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Jim Beam is in some trouble because on every bottle of Jim Beam bourbon that you buy, they have the word handcrafted on there. And a new lawsuit filed by a man by the name of Scott Welk says that, hey, not all of these bottles are handcrafted. To call something handcrafted, it has to be, quote, handmade by a skilled craftsman. But this product is not handmade by a skilled craftsman. He is suing them to the tune of $5 million.
Wow.
From Jim Beam. So we'll see how that turns out. I'll keep you posted. Volvo yesterday announced that they plan on being the very first maker of self-driving cars.
Uh-oh.
I know, right? There are obviously a lot of legal issues about having a driverless car on the road.
And there are a few now. I mean, they are experimenting with them. But
Right. But Volvo says they're going to make the very first self-driving car, and they say they're going to have it in consumers' hands by 2017.
Wow.
So in just a couple of years, they put out a whole big graphic. They say it's a series of cameras and laser scanner and radar and everything around the car that adds up to be able to create the car that could drive itself.
Volvo's always known as the safe car, too.
Yeah,
so.
that's right.
Right.
That's right. Well, I mean, good thing. If you're not going to have anybody driving it, you can at least have it safe, man. And Walmart made a big announcement yesterday.
I am not getting in a driverless car. Okay,
I'll say this.
I just want to put that out there.
I'll say this. I'm not going to be one of the first people to get into a driverless car. I may in like another 10 years. But for those of the people who want to pioneer this and get on the road going 65 miles per hour without anybody driving, you guys can be the first.
And we have to remember, there are people who had once said they would not get in a car that was not pulled by a horse.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. Walmart yesterday making a big announcement. They announced that they are going to give 500,000 workers a raise. They say that the minimum wage is not high enough, and they want to make a new minimum wage that they have as a standard at Walmart. They say that it's going to be $9 per hour in April, and then next February, so in a year, they're going to boost it again to $10. So in a year's time, minimum wage for Walmart will be $10.
First of all, good for them.
Sure.
It's hard to believe that that sentence has the word Walmart in it.
I know.
But here again, it just shows how behind the times and how wrong John Boehner and Tea Party Republicans are in the House, who refuse even to consider raising the minimum wage from $7.25. And they say because it's bad for business. Here's Walmart, right? Hardly some big liberal organization, right?
Yeah.
The number one business in America is saying it's not good for workers.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very, very powerful message.
Now, Bill, will this be putting you into a Walmart?
I'm not sure I'd go that.
Get carried away here.
Yeah. They go to $15.
Yeah.
That's my challenge.
I mean, yeah, $10
$15
is a big step for a company like Walmart.
Right. Yeah.
Have them call John Boehner.
All right. The big story of the day is where we start today. You know, just when you thought politics can't get any more ugly, can't get just more low life, well, Rudy Giuliani shows you, oh, yeah, we can go places that nobody else would dare to go. Such a disgusting, revolting comment that he made the other night about President Obama. And the worst part is he continues to double down and to dig himself even deeper and deeper. Remember, Bill Clinton used to say, when you're in a hole, the first rule is stop digging. Rudy never learned that lesson. So let's start out And by the way, this is not something new, okay? This is a continuation of what we've seen from the beginning with Republicans dealing with Barack Obama. Remember, I wrote a whole book about it, The Obama Hate Machine. They started out never accepting him, right? They denied he was an American citizen, denied he was born here, denied he was raised here, accused him of being raised on anti-colonialism rather than on democracy, by his grandfather or his father. It was all made up. All the challenges about his birth certificate. Remember, John McCain called him the other. He's not like us. That has been their thread from the very, very beginning. And they've never gotten away from it. They still do not accept him as a legitimate president. And part of that, of course, is because he's black. You thought that might have gone away, and now they're just dealing with policy differences with Barack Obama. No. Rudy Giuliani shows that at the very heart of it, they do not accept President Obama as an American, as a legitimate president of the United States. Now, so here's how it came out. A couple of nights ago in New York, they got a little dinner party. Scott Walker's in town, and they pulled together some right-wing Wall Street. Well, it's sort of redundant. Some Wall Street executives to have dinner, and Rudy Giuliani is the guest of honor. And Rudy starts out this way, quote, "I do not believe, and I know this is a horrible thing to say."
Okay, stop right there. Anytime a politician says that, buckle up.
Right. He continues, "But I do not believe that the president loves America. He doesn't love you. He doesn't love me. He wasn't brought up the way you were brought up, and I was brought up through love of this country." Now, as Peter pointed out, first of all, if you say, this is a horrible thing to say, I shouldn't say it, but you shouldn't say it. Stop right there.
I'm not a politician, but that sounds like a bad idea.
Stop right there, right? But the other thing, the president doesn't love America, wasn't brought up, notice that, wasn't brought up the way you and I were brought up, right? There's that otherness again, right? There's that non-legitimate president again. And it's wrong to go there. What he said is wrong, and what he said is absolutely positively disgusting. There are some limits, even in the political world. And I said this yesterday, and I know others have said the same thing. As much as I disagree with Ronald Reagan, as much as I disagree with the policies of George W. Bush, as much as I disagree with Dick Cheney, I would never say that they do not love this country. They love this country. They're just dead-ass wrong about what's best for this country, in my humble opinion. As Americans, we can certainly disagree of the direction we ought to be taking. But when you get down to say, he's not a patriot, he doesn't love this country, you have just destroyed any dialogue. You've just destroyed any possibility for making progress. You've thrown any civility out the window.
Yeah.
Any possibility of coming together.
Where do you go from there?
Out the window, right? Exactly. So where do you go from there? Maybe where you go from there is, you know what? I had a couple drinks ahead of time, and I shouldn't have said that. No. Rudy goes on Fox yesterday, Fox and Friends yesterday morning. We watched him right during our show. And on Megyn Kelly last night, and he doubles down. Megyn Kelly says, okay, here's a chance. Do you want to pull back some of those arguments?
Not at all. I want to repeat it. The reality is, from all that I can see of this president, all that I've heard of him, he apologizes for America. He criticizes America. He talks about the Crusades and how the Christians were barbarians, leaves out the second half of the sentence, that the Muslims were barbarians also. He sees Christians slaughtered and doesn't stand up and hold a press conference, although he holds a press conference for the situation in Ferguson. He sees Jews being killed for anti-Semitic reasons, doesn't stand up and hold a press conference. This is an American president I've never seen before.
Unbelievable. First of all, just the whole litany there, he is wrong on every count. President Obama doesn't go around apologizing for America. They keep saying this about his apology tour.
The apology tour.
Show me where he has apologized for America. He never has. And then, of course, he references the president's speech at the prayer breakfast. What the president was saying at the prayer breakfast is, doing violence in the name of God is wrong. It's wrong when Islamic extremists do it. It's wrong when ISIS does it. It was wrong when Christians did it. And during the Crusades, in case Rudy Giuliani doesn't know, and the Christians are going to the Middle East to free the holy sites from the barbarians, right? And they march off from Europe. They stopped along the way and slaughtered millions of Jews just because they happen to be Jews and not Christians. And they get to the Holy Land, and throughout the Crusades, they slaughtered tens of millions of Muslims just because they were Muslims. And the president was saying, that was wrong. Does Rudy think it was right? I mean, what the hell is going on? The president, Rudy, again, says that he just doesn't see Obama loving America like other presidents have done.
I do not detect in this man the same rhetoric, the same language, the same love of America that I detected in other American presidents, including Democrats. And I think it guides a lot of the things that he says and a lot of the things that he does.
And in fact, Rudy said he defied any journalist to come up with any speech at all in which the president said anything good about America. I mean, that is just unbelievable. Every speech the president gives, he talks about how great this country is. May I just read maybe one of the final paragraphs of the State of the Union speech in January? The president says, I want future generations to know we are a people who see our differences as a great gift. We are a people who value the dignity and the worth of every citizen. I want them to grow up in a country that shows the world what we still know to be true, that we are still more than a collection of red states and blue states. We are the United States of America. He goes on and on to talk about what a great country this is. He does it all the time. What do we do about a guy like Rudy Giuliani? And where are the Republican voices to condemn Rudy Giuliani? Scott Walker was sitting at that dinner, and he never said one damn word. Bobby Jindal has come out and praised Rudy Giuliani. Is this where we are again? 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job, and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand, and they don't get it, and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 27 minutes after the hour. Lots of calls, lots of comments. Peter.
One quick comment from Twitter where we're tweeting at BP Show. Mama for Obama says, let's call this what it is. It's racism. The remarks Rudy Giuliani made are rooted in racism. Birtherism is rooted in racism. Let's call this what it is.
Rudy says it's not racist because Barack Obama has had a white mother and white grandparents. How can it be racist?
Some of my best friends are black.
Laura's down in Sebring, Florida. Hey, Laura, what do you say?
Okay, Bill, I just have something very short to say. When I was growing up, my father told me, you might not agree with everything that goes on in that office, but you should respect that man. He was voted in. You respect that office. He's the President of the United States of America.
Amen to that, Laura. That's it. Exactly. And, again, I mean, look, I've spent my entire career debating right-wingers like Pat Buchanan, late great Bob Novak, John Sununu, Mary Madeline, Tucker Carlson. They're friends of mine. I would never suggest that they don't love this country. Rudy Giuliani, you don't belong on this freaking planet. More calls coming up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. If I see dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Thirty-four minutes after the hour now, we are talking about Rudy Giuliani, who has really stirred it up and refuses to back down, repeating all those old charges in effect against Barack Obama, President Obama, but with a new twist. Now it's that he just doesn't love America because he's always apologizing for America, and he has never said a good word. According to Rudy Giuliani, the president has never made one speech, has never said one good word about America, which is just flat out a lie. It is a flat out lie. So, you know, Rudy Giuliani, let's face it, who was a great presence right after September 11, he has become a clown act. He's become one of these people who are willing, almost like Sarah Palin, who are willing to say anything just
to get attention.
To get attention.
Yeah. I honestly, call me naive, I thought that we had kind of moved on from mainstream politicians anyway, or mainstream political figures coming out and saying things like,
right.
doesn't love America. He's the president of the United States.
All right,
we're talking about.
But Rudy says, well, I'll give him a chance. Okay, I'll take it back if the president does. He's issuing
a challenge now,
an ultimatum to President Obama.
I'm right about this. I have no doubt about it. I do not withdraw my words. If the president goes and makes a speech and talks about what a great country this is, if the president could complete the following sentence: during the Crusades, the Christians were barbarians, and so were the Muslims. If the president could say Islamic fundamentalist terrorism is our enemy, I will applaud the president. But until he does that, I will have doubts about his emotions, his feelings, his attitudes, and the way in which he developed.
What a joke.
It is just, it's so
What a
sick.
joke.
I mean, here's a president who is conducting, I might say, an illegal war against Islamic extremism with ISIS. So far, over 5,000 airstrikes against Islamic extremists under the brand of ISIS, right? Here's the president who has unleashed more drone attacks and killed more Islamic extremists by drones than any other president ever, right? Of course. I mean, he's doing more in that area. And Rudy Giuliani says, basically, no. He doesn't, you know, he loves these guys, right? He apologizes for this. It's just dead ass wrong. And finally, we'll get to your calls. I'm sorry. Thank you for your patience. We'll get to you in just a sec. 866-55-PRESS. But then I love the fact, follow this logic. It's not a racist attack because his mother was white. Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
What a defense,
right.
man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you can attack the black man all you want, right? But it's not racist because his mother was white.
Wow.
Rudy.
Yeah. It's just common sense here.
How Rudy.
Yeah. Saeed is calling from Queens, New York. Hello, Saeed. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Press.
Bill,
thank you for taking my call.
Yeah.
I'm not that astute on politics when it comes to the United States and its mannerisms, whether it's Democratic or Republican.
Where are you from, Saeed?
Well, I'm originally from Virginia, but I'm in New York, and I've been in New York now for 58 years.
Oh, okay.
Rudy Giuliani is not the person to be put on a list of who we should look forward to as being American. Just look at the people who've lived in New York under the Stasi-like atmosphere that he created and his puppets. All you got to do is talk to, and it doesn't have to be black people. Just talk to anybody that's lived here over 5 years in New York, and they'll tell you about Rudy Giuliani.
It was a different time under Rudy Giuliani for sure, and again, I've never been a fan of his, never. But you can agree or disagree about how good a job he did as being mayor, right?
Yeah.
Even Rudy Giuliani, I would not say he doesn't love his country.
Right.
He does. He's just dead ass wrong about what's best for this country. Again, in my opinion, he and I have a different opinion about how to take this country forward. But for him to stand up and say, "Oh no," the difference between all the rest of us and Barack Obama is we love our country and Barack Obama doesn't. And he doesn't love you and he doesn't love me. I mean,
he had a different upbringing than you and I did.
Sherry is out in Chicago. Hi, Sherry.
Hey, good morning. Take care of yourself. You sound like you're getting better, but take care of yourself.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, love.
Just wanted to say a visual that I thought of when I heard Giuliani, and that's the president driving his car with the Republican and Conservative Party in the trunk of the car. They're making noise, but not enough to distract him of driving the car for the American people. I don't agree with him 100%, but he's a good president, and the Giulianis and the Trumps with the birth certificate,
Yeah.
It's wearing thin, but it's still going to be out there.
But that's it, and that's why I mentioned that earlier, Sherry. We heard this during the 2008 campaign. Remember that John McCain even got into it. The other, Sarah Palin, palling around with terrorists, right? And then the whole birth certificate stuff, the birthers and the whole thing. This has always been their tack. And again, like you, Peter, I sort of thought most Republicans now accepted him as the president of the United States. Obviously, Rudy Giuliani does not. And the response that we're getting to Rudy is what I find troubling, too. The fact that a Scott Walker would not say, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
No, don't. I'm not going there.
Yeah.
Bobby Jindal says, if you want me to criticize Rudy, no, look somewhere else. I'm not going to criticize Rudy Giuliani.
Why not?
Right.
Just say he's wrong. What's wrong with saying that that's a stupid thing to say?
Where's the chairman of the Republican National Committee to stand up and say, whoa, I just want everyone to understand. Rudy does not speak for us, right? No. Right. Where's John McCain? Where's Mitch McConnell? This is crazy. This is inflammatory, and it's dead wrong. Mark is up in Stanford, Maine. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Bill.
Yeah, what's up?
Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to say that this last statement by Giuliani did it, and it goes along with what they've been doing right along. They speculate on everything, but it's all derogatory towards this president and also the Democratic Party. I mean, there's the race card is definitely in the mix here. I mean, there's no proof. The president's speeches have never been off kilter like Rudy Giuliani claims.
No, he has never apologized for America. That's what gets me, Mark. And, the president has admitted that in the past we have made our mistakes. Well, who can deny that, right? I mean, where do you start? Right. Do you start at one end with slavery, or do you start the other end with the Iraq War, right? I mean, hello?
Exactly.
Yeah, we're not a perfect people, and there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with criticizing or pointing out that Christians have also killed in the name of religion. That Christians defended and practiced slavery in the name of the Bible, in the name of religion. And that's all the president said in his speech at the press club. Well, we got, I know, lots of calls, but we also have Susan Page standing by. USA Today, Washington Bureau Chief. We'll check in with her next, and we'll have a chance to talk about Rudy a little later in the show. So keep your fire hot. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. Truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania. Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer. Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go. 13 minutes now before the top of the hour. You know, you are like us. I'm sure you can't get through the week without your Friday fix with Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today. Not only that, television star of the new show Capital Download on WUSA, Channel 9, 8:30 every Sunday morning. Susan, how are you?
Bill, it's great to be back with you.
Star of print and screen, right?
I'm still employed this week.
Oh, yeah, that's
heading toward next.
That's always good. Yeah, so we take it 1 week at a time in this business, no matter how long we've been at it. Susan, what do you think is the impact on the Republican Party field of Rudy Giuliani saying President Obama doesn't love America?
What in the world is he thinking? I mean, don't you find it just an extraordinary statement? You can think President Obama has the wrong policies.
Yeah.
You can think he's taking the country in the wrong direction. But to say he doesn't love America, I got to admit, I am baffled.
I am too, and I'm also baffled by the fact that more people have not just stood up and said, hey, wait, no, we don't go there, right? And Scott Walker is at this dinner. He hasn't said anything. Bobby Jindal, they asked him his comments, and he said, if you're looking for somebody to criticize Rudy Giuliani, look somewhere else.
It's stunning. You know, as you know, a week or so ago, I interviewed David Axelrod about his new book, and I asked him about what role race had played in the opposition to President Obama, and he said that he said it's not responsible for all the criticism of President Obama, of course, but that some of the criticism he thinks is racially based, and I just wonder if this idea that President Obama doesn't love America, that he's like different from all the other presidents who, of course, presidents love America. If some of that has a racial base, I don't know. I think it's possible.
I mean, you and I have, and also Rudy says that he challenged some reporter. I wish he'd challenged me to show one speech where President Obama ever said anything good about America. I mean, he's the president of the United States. He ends every speech, at least, by talking about what a great country we are. And you and I have heard him talk about the fact that nowhere else on the planet could somebody like him come from where he came from and end up where he is today. Right?
He's talked about his own story, right, being an affirmation of why all of us love America.
Yeah.
Whatever the country's flaws and whatever the shortcomings that we still have to address. So I can't, of course, for the most conservative, the fiercest opponents of the president, I guess this is something that unites them and energizes them. But I've got to think for most of the country, especially for the middle part of the country, politically, that this is not a politically shrewd thing to be saying.
Right, and I don't think most Republicans want this to be their main theme. I'm sure a lot of them really resent Rudy Giuliani throwing the stink bomb into 2016 politics. But so, Susan, for people like you and me, this is so crazy. We get our rocks off on CPAC.
It's like the Oscars and the Super Bowl all rolled up together.
It's almost as big as a gridiron dinner.
But, not quite as big as that.
No. So CPAC, Conservative Political Action Committee, it's always a big showplace for the conservative presidential contenders. They come to town next week. You sat down with the head of CPAC. What can we expect?
So his name is Matt Schlapp. He's not maybe a name you know, but
No.
He is new to CPAC. I think he's trying to energize this annual conference. He's a guy who was political director at the White House when President George W. Bush was running for re-election, and then he worked, guess for who? Koch Industries as their Washington lobbyist. So he has impeccable Republican credentials. And, they're going to get every significant Republican presidential hopeful except one. And you might think, the one they're not getting is Chris Christie because he's kind of been more moderate. Not Chris Christie. He's going to be there. It's Mike Huckabee is refusing to go to CPAC.
Whoa. Wait, he's refusing or he wasn't invited?
He was invited. He declined.
No kidding.
So I find that very surprising.
I do too.
But the rest of the field is going to be there. And, we'll be watching to see what kind of connection they make with this audience of conservative activists.
So Jeb will be there?
Jeb will be there.
And Chris Christie will.
Chris Christie, Rick Perry, Ted Cruz, Rick Santorum, Ben Carson, Carly Fiorina, Scott Walker, Marco Rubio, any Republican running for president, just about it is going to be there except for Mike Huckabee.
Who will not be there, of course, is the Log Cabin Republican Club.
They're invited to attend. Now, this is an interesting thing. This has been an issue the last couple of years with CPAC, the participation of gay rights Republicans, gay Republican groups. So Matt Schlapp made a big thing about how welcome they are to attend the CPAC conference. But on the other hand, the Log Cabin Republicans say they've not been allowed to buy a booth. And so that they say this is like a sign that they are not actually that welcome, although they're welcome to buy a ticket.
I think it's a big sign that they're not that welcome, right? In other words, you can kind of come in undercover, right? But we don't want, this is almost don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's a sign of how much this issue, same-sex marriage, I think, is a big problem for the Republican coalition because you've got those libertarian Republicans who don't care about your sexual orientation. And then you've got Christian conservatives who care very much about opposing same-sex marriage.
So what I love is the fact that they are banning the Log Cabin Republicans from at least having a booth at the convention, which is being held in the Gaylord Convention Center.
That's so juvenile, Bill. Really?
No, it is funny. Come on, though.
Have you met Bill? He can be pretty juvenile.
It's going to be fun to watch. I hate that National Harbor. I wish they used to have it still in town here,
I agree. I think if you're coming to Washington, you want to be downtown and go to the restaurants and try to navigate the streets, which are still blocked by ice and snow.
Right. When they used to have it up at whatever that hotel is up, the Marriott, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was easy. You get up there and hang out and... no. Well, one more reason I won't go. I guess.
Well, you can watch it on TV.
I will, and we will see you on TV Sunday morning, WUSA. So your interview with Matt Schlapp will be there, part of the Capitol Download.
It will be, and we asked him a question we haven't released yet. We'll release it on Sunday morning about how much difference that $1 billion that the Koch brothers network are going to spend in 2016, how much difference that's going to make.
Oh, all right. Nice. A hot scoop coming from Susan Page on Sunday morning. Thanks, Susan. Have a good weekend.
Bill. You too.
All right. Talk to you soon.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry.
Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately I've been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
Okay, when we come back, run, Elizabeth, run. More and more people are saying that. She doesn't seem to be listening, so we will check in with the campaign manager for the Ready for Warren Super PAC. Is she getting any positive signals that maybe Elizabeth Warren might change her mind? That's coming up at the top of the next hour at the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas, too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or whatever. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
broadcasting around the nation on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Baby, it's cold outside. Oh. Yeah. Whoa. 5 degrees. 5 degrees here in Washington, D.C. Of course, that's higher than the approval rating of the U.S. Congress. And it is 2 degrees in Chicago, last time we checked. Neither one of those account for the wind chill. Yeah, so subtract 10, and that's about where we are. Oh, my God. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Friday, February 20, The Bill Press Show here in our studio on Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., waiting for Congress to come back to town next week. Meanwhile, keeping you up to date on what's going on here in Washington, around the country, and around the globe. And looking forward to hearing from you about it, what it all means to you, what you think about it all. You know how to do it, 866-866-55-PRESS. That's our toll-free number. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. On this Friday, Team Press assembled. Peter Ogburn, Lisa Murphy.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, happy Friday.
Yes. Glad to see it get here.
Woohoo.
Yes, indeed.
With Alicia Cruz. She's there to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Cyprian Bolding keeping us looking good on Free Speech TV and on our worldwide video stream, TawkrTV. What a big weekend coming up because we've got the Oscars.
Yeah, that's right.
Sunday night. You know, you always make the point, why don't we do the Super Bowl on Saturday?
I'm telling you.
Why did you do the Oscars on Saturday?
I know, seriously.
Yeah. No, yeah.
You think I'm going to stay up, watch the whole broadcast on Sunday? No way.
No.
We can't.
No. But
so,
I don't get it. Why Sunday night?
I honestly don't get it. I mean, they would get more people staying up and watching the whole broadcast.
Is it because
Saturday,
it's the only time they could get TV time? No, it's one of the most, after the Super Bowl, I guess it's one of the most watched programs, right?
Yeah.
Worldwide.
Yeah.
And we never know what to expect. Conan O'Brien last night talked about, this is the one thing that host Neil Patrick Harris might be a little concerned about.
Oscar host Neil Patrick Harris said he hopes that the broadcast on Sunday will include a Kanye moment. That's what he said. Yeah, unfortunately, a Kanye moment may not be possible because that would require there to be a black person at the Oscars. That's the only problem.
He had to go there, didn't he?
That's pretty good.
Oh, yes. David Oyelowo won't be there. Well, he might be there, but he's wasn't nominated.
Oh, my God.
And Conan also pointed out that there will be a repeat performance we can look forward to. And God knows what's going to happen this year, but he is back.
This is weird. A year after mispronouncing Idina Menzel's name, John Travolta will again be presenting an Oscar. He's coming back. Travolta said, "I'm very excited to introduce the star of the imitation game, Benadryl Cumberbitch."
That's the name to butcher right there.
Oh, yeah.
He called Idina Menzel Adele Dazeem, is what he called her last year when he was presenting. Idina Menzel, Adele Dazeem.
Why bring him back?
Why bring him back? I don't know, in hopes that he does it again. It was pretty amazing.
It would be. I'd like to see him put your Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
All right, 9 minutes after the hour, we've got a lot we're going to talk about. Ready for Warren here right at the top of the hour. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. A little bit of a shakeup here in Washington yesterday. Jen Psaki announced that she is leaving her post as spokesperson for Secretary of State John Kerry.
Aww.
And she is moving on, though. She is going to be communications director for the President of the United States.
Ah.
Our friend Jen Psaki is moving over to the White House from the State Department.
Great move.
Big move for them.
Great move.
Big move for them.
She's good.
She's very, very good. And a good friend of our program. Been on many times.
Yes, indeed. I mentioned a couple of months ago, Bill, that when they were renovating Baltimore's Washington Monument, not our Washington Monument, but the Washington Monument that they have in Baltimore.
Which is a little smaller.
It's a lot smaller, it's a lot smaller. But it is older than ours, and they were renovating it, and they found a time capsule inside of it. Inside of the Washington Monument. They had no idea. So yesterday, they opened it up, and they didn't find much. They found a bunch of antiques, old jars, some old letters. A lot of them have actually been damaged. because it wasn't sealed up as well. There's still more things that they're uncovering out of this time capsule because the problem here is that the time capsule, nobody knew about it.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't very well preserved. So it had a lot of leaking and a lot of things might have been damaged. But they're trying to salvage what they can.
And there's some really old newspapers in there, too.
Papers, yeah, as I mentioned. So it's like, there's some things in there, but more to come. So stay tuned. And boy, it's cold out there, Bill. You did mention the weather here in Washington, D.C. and all up and down the East Coast. It's very, very cold. And in fact, Niagara Falls has frozen over.
Oh, I thought it almost did, but now it has.
It has frozen over. Yesterday
it was
very, very cold, and it hadn't completely frozen over, but I've tweeted out pictures from The Independent. They've gathered up several different photos of Niagara Falls. Water's still running in some areas, but it is very clear. It is just a frozen froth of ice.
Wow.
That is Niagara Falls. They are trippy, trippy photos.
I wonder if that made of the mist little.
I don't think it's going out there. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No way,
Arctic.
Dude. Yeah.
They need an icebreaker ahead of it.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think that's happening.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. It's been around for a long time, a couple of years now. Ready for Hillary, that big pack. Well, why leave the field to Hillary alone? Why not Ready for Elizabeth or Ready for Warren? There is such a group, Ready for Warren, based in Chicago. Erica Sagrans is their executive or campaign manager and joins us on our newsline from a sub-zero Chicago this morning. Hi, Erica.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Stay warm. Right.
Yeah, it's a little chilly here.
How long has Ready for Warren been in existence?
Well, we kicked off officially this last summer in July. And have been going since then. It's been we've been just picking up momentum these past months and seeing a lot of excitement around this idea that Warren run.
So I guess the question is, what kind of response are you getting around the country, number one? And then maybe more importantly, what kind of response are you getting from the candidate? Let's start with around the country.
Sure. Well, I'm in Chicago. We have folks all around the country. We're a very volunteer-driven group, and I've spent a lot of time in Iowa over the past few months in the summer, too, and we've just seen a lot of interest in Warren, a lot of excitement about her. People actually do know about her. Many of them have read her book. I was at the Harkin Steak Fry, and people just came up to us sort of so excited about her story, asking us when we were going to open offices. So we've seen a lot of excitement, a lot of interest. You may have read about there was a focus group in Colorado a few months ago too, when people just really knew her, felt like they could trust her, and wanted her to run, wanted her, to be more of a leader and a candidate. In terms of her position, she's obviously said she's not running, and we take her at her word. But that's why we exist as a draft push to encourage her to run. She was really drafted to run when she ran for Senate in 2012 in Massachusetts, and so we believe we can do it again here.
That's one of the things I wanted to bring up is you mentioned all the excitement around Elizabeth Warren. There's more excitement around Elizabeth Warren than anybody on either side of the ticket for 2016. The one person least excited about it seems to be Elizabeth Warren. So,
well,
what have you heard from her? Because I know she knows about you.
She does know about us. I mean, she's focused. She's focused on doing what she's doing, and she's doing great work and leading the fight there in Washington. But we know she's listening and knows what we're up to, and so we feel like if we can really show her that support exists, she'll think about it and hopefully run.
Do you? There was this meeting between Hillary and Elizabeth Warren, which happened in December and then sort of leaked out. So did she, I'm speaking about Elizabeth Warren now. I hope the answer is no, but did she tell Hillary she would never run against her?
I don't believe so. I mean, I don't know what happened in the meeting. Our take on that meeting is just that it shows what a leader Elizabeth Warren is becoming, and that that she's clearly a leading voice on issues around economic inequality and just sort of so many things. But I don't believe she said that as far as what I've heard.
So you're very, very clear that you want Elizabeth Warren to run for president, but if one of the byproducts of that meeting with Hillary Clinton is that Elizabeth Warren maybe runs as vice president, how does that make you feel?
I mean, I think whatever Warren ends up deciding, we see her as a leader, a rising leader in the Democratic Party, in politics, just, the way that she speaks about, giving working families a fighting chance and helping students, and just the fight that she's led has really resonated with so many people. So regardless of what she does, we want her to continue to be a leader and elevate her and, the work that she's fighting on. So that's my take on that.
Erica, I got to tell you, I feel very, very strongly that Elizabeth Warren should run for president. I want her to run for president. I want Bernie Sanders to run for president as well. I do not want Hillary Clinton to have a free ride all the way to the nomination for a lot of reasons. Nothing against Hillary, but I just don't think it's good for the party, good for the country. I don't think it's good for Hillary. So what can those of us, and I've personally talked to Bernie Sanders about this a couple of times and encouraged him to run. On the air, we have been encouraging Elizabeth Warren to run. What can we do to build a fire under this lady? Because ultimately, as great as she is, and she's phenomenal on the issues. She's a great, great leader. But she's got to want it. She's got to put herself out there. And if she doesn't, we're screwed. So what can we do to change her mind?
Yeah, I mean, that's so much of what we've been saying, too, at Ready for Warren, is there's just the importance of seeing a contested primary. Democratic voters really need a choice, and that's going to be better for the party and voters and the country and the eventual nominee, too, regardless of who that is. So I think just continuing to talk about it, I think the idea of there not being a contested primary, it scares a lot of people, even people, regardless of who they support. So I think that idea is something that people will really support. And I think with Warren, part of our strategy is we want to get the voices of people around the country, their personal stories in front of her and to her. We have people recording videos and talking about why they need her to run and their struggles. And, that's something she wrote about in her book, is being asked to run by a woman at a Massachusetts house party. And, this woman said, "Will you fight for us in Washington?" And that's when she says that she made her decision. So we do want to show her that it's not, it's not just kind of politico or activist types. It's real people. So I think kind of just highlighting those stories, just continuing to encourage her and encourage others as well, because we want Warren to run, but I think others should run as well, and it should just be definitely make sure it's a competitive primary.
Erica Sagrans, our guest. She is campaign manager for Ready for Warren. So how can people plug in, Erica?
Yeah, you can check out readyforwarren.com. The easiest thing is to just sign up and say you want to see Warren run, and then you can get some updates from us. We have often events around the country. We're pretty active on social media as well, at Ready for Warren on Facebook, and check us out there and get plugged in.
Have you done any polling in the Democratic primary states?
Yeah, actually, Move On, who joined the Draft Warren effort, along with Democracy for America and also the Working Families Party of New York, Move On recently conducted a poll focused on New Hampshire and Iowa, and they found very strong support for Warren, also just overwhelming support for wanting a competitive primary.
So there you go. We got the base. We just need to, I think we've got the foundation. What we need is a candidate, right?
Yeah, so we're building, we're organizing, and showing her there's that support there, and we'll be ready if she decides to jump in the race.
Have you personally met with her?
I have not. I mean, we've been at plenty of events where she has been there, but we've been mostly just kind of there to show our support.
Okay, I didn't know whether you had actually had a chance to sit down and look her in the eye and say, "Come on, do this." Right. All right. Well, we hope you have that opportunity, and I'm so excited that you're out there. So excited for what you're doing, and hopefully we can help get you,
keep it going.
Some more soldiers.
Thank you so much for the support. I mean, we've seen so much interest and enthusiasm everywhere. So we're ready, and we're encouraging her, and we'll see what we can do.
All right. So let's build a fire under Elizabeth Warren. Go to readyforwarren.com. Erica Sagrans, campaign manager.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer. At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Well, here is Rebecca Sinderbrand from the Washington Post joins us in studio here for the next half hour. Here's a headline that I was stunned to see this morning. Okay, it's 5 degrees outside, right? When we came to work this morning, 5. Little Peter in the suburbs, a little colder.
A little chillier out where I was. Yeah, it was a degree this morning.
1.
Just 1.
Oh, okay.
So at least we had 1.
Plus or minus 2, 3 or 4. Yeah. And Chicago, the last time we checked, was 2 degrees. Now, these are actual degrees, not
the wind chill.
Right.
It's real degrees.
To put that in perspective, Washington Post headline this morning from our friends at the Capital Weather Gang, the eastern United States, not the North Plains, right? Not Alaska. The eastern United States is by far the coldest place in the world today compared to average temperatures.
Holy crap.
We're here, baby. We are number 1 coldest place on the planet compared to average temperatures.
Jeesh.
Yeah.
We're so lucky.
Yeah. We're number 1. Yeah.
All right. And
our friends at the Capital Weather Gang, by the way, just a little bit of, just a couple of other numbers around the East Coast. So here in Washington, D.C., our high is only expected to hit about 15 degrees today. 15. Now, the record low high before this was 18 degrees. That was set in 1896. So we're getting pretty cold, and we're breaking records all up and down the East Coast. As you mentioned, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Charleston, West Virginia, Roanoke, West Virginia are all positioned to break all-time records for the month of February. And in Ohio, temperatures plummet to as much as 40 degrees below their average for this time of year.
Wow.
40 below average.
Yep.
Holy. No wonder. President Obama yesterday said he was happy to be back home in Siberia. With a little visit to Chicago. Back with Rebecca Sinderbrand. Stay warm.
Is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour now. The Bill Press Show. Here we are in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Very cold Washington, D.C.
By the way, shout out to all of the people who are tweeting us shots of their dashboard temperature and things like that. 'Cause we're getting a lot of those. Pittsburgh just weighed in with a -8.
Oh, no.
-8.
Oh, wow.
We're getting a lot of them.
Yeah,
So
keep them coming. When we say we're 5 degrees here, we realize there are people who are experiencing a lot colder weather and have for a long time, particularly when you look at the wind chill factor.
I mean,
So,
past a certain point, you're just talking, fridge zone.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't even feel the difference.
It's true. That is true.
Again, coming from this frozen capital here, and brought to you today by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, good men and women of the Teamsters Union under President Jim Hoffa. We all live better because of their good work, as you will find out if you go to their website at teamster.org. Well, Rudy Giuliani has certainly stirred the political pot this week, and so has Jeb Bush, political editor, news editor for the Washington Post. Rebecca Sinderbrand is all over this stuff, and she is kind enough to take time to join us in studio this morning. Hi, Rebecca.
Hello. How are you?
Nice to see you. It's been a good week for you.
It's been an entertaining week for us, I'll say that.
Yeah.
I love it when the news fairy comes to town.
That's right. Sometimes you feel like you should be paying. I hope they're not listening. You should be paying to have this job. It's that much fun.
We'll cut that out in post.
Okay, right.
Thanks.
All right. So, does President Obama love America?
Well, that's this is the question. This is a question. Someone was saying yesterday, one of President Obama's former staffers was saying on Twitter yesterday, I want to see everyone now posing this question to all Republican presidential candidates, which, of course, at some point is going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Do you love America?
Right.
Or does President Obama love America? I mean,
that's right. And he thanks Rudy Giuliani for providing him with this question to be able to ask the Republican presidential candidates.
What is Rudy Giuliani up to? I mean, seriously. To go there is a place where I think rightfully so, most politicians would never go.
Well, and you've had some veteran New York reporters saying, Rudy Giuliani right now is having one of the stranger second acts in American politics. This is not the kind of, he's always set his own course. He's always been a bit not necessarily following the crowd, but this is not what you expected. You might expect him to move into an elder statesman role or to become somewhat of an advisor for the party's top presidential candidates. And the more he talks, the further you see him moving from that role and more into kind of, the bomb thrower role will keep you in the spotlight, but it's not going to kind of give you that gravitas and that status.
So
that is an interesting point, right? Like, this is Rudy just fighting to keep himself relevant, I think. Because no real candidate, nobody who wants to be taken seriously would say something like that.
No, I mean, George Bush never said it about John Kerry. John Kerry never said it about George Bush. You just don't go there, right?
And to be fair, I mean, of course, maybe the first statement of this was said behind closed doors, but everyone knows these days after 47% that's no bar for anything, and he's repeated it several times since then, so he's definitely doubling down on it.
He doubled down last night, at least if we have, with Megyn Kelly on Fox News, where she asks him, the first question is, here's your chance, do you want to pull anything back?
Not at all. I want to repeat it. The reality is, from all that I can see of this president, all that I've heard of him, he apologizes for America. He criticizes America. He talks about the Crusades and how the Christians were barbarians, leaves out the second half of the sentence, that the Muslims were barbarians also. He sees Christians slaughtered and doesn't stand up and hold a press conference, although he holds a press conference for the situation in Ferguson. He sees Jews being killed for anti-Semitic reasons, doesn't stand up and hold a press conference. This is an American president I've never seen before.
Yeah. I mean, he's so wrong on his facts, not only on where he goes. But so he started out, as you know, saying, I do not believe. And I know this is a horrible thing to say. But then he goes on and says it anyway. Don't you think when you say...
Right, the first rule of American politics.
Right.
I know this is a horrible thing to say is supposed to be the trigger. Oh, maybe I shouldn't say it. Yeah, of course.
As Chris Salusa says in your paper this morning.
That's right.
Yeah. When you start
listen
that way...
Listen to the fix.
Then listen to the fix. Then you do not say it. Right.
But for everybody else, it means start rolling tape right then and there, because that means something good is about to happen.
I got to tell you...
For reporters.
The audio of that evening is going to come out. Somebody had their cell phone on. You know it.
Right?
You know it. In this day and age, absolutely.
It's interesting, too, because it seems like we've had a number of these private dinners this week where the expectation was that they'd be private, but then at the same time, people either forgot to tell reporters until partway through, or everyone has to go in there now with the expectation that what they're telling these donors is what they're telling America.
Everything. Now, there is a connection here, and you've been particularly focused on 2016. I wanted to start there, but it's a connection because this dinner was a dinner for Scott Walker.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who has not said anything in any way to condemn what Rudy Giuliani said.
Well, Scott Walker is developing a bit of reputation as kind of a bunter when it comes to these issues. And with the evolution question back in London, with the Giuliani
this
question,
is not something politicians should talk about.
It's just not my.
What?
It's not my area.
Yeah.
He's the first politician that found something he doesn't want to talk about,
and quite a few things he doesn't want to talk about.
Right.
And so it'll be interesting to see how long he could sustain this.
Right. This is a moment, maybe a Sister Souljah moment, right? Where he could stand up and say, hey.
Well, certainly that's what Democrats are saying and would like to think about it, and we'll see.
I think some Republicans are saying that, too. I haven't heard anybody publicly say it. Mm-hmm. And then Bobby Jindal. Here's another 2016er. Somebody went to a reporter to Bobby Jindal. He says, oh, no, if you're looking for somebody to criticize Rudy Giuliani, you got the wrong guy.
And he went even further than that. He actually put out a statement from the governor's office with the headline, Bobby Jindal refuses to condemn Rudy Giuliani. What? That was the headline. And so, that grabbed a lot of attention. That was much further than any of the other 2016ers have weighed in. Most of them haven't weighed in, actually, on Giuliani at this point.
No, they haven't as well. The news, the trends, at least from what I have seen this week, seems to be Jeb Bush's train is rushing down the track, and Chris Christie's train is stalled on a little sideline here somewhere.
Well, and
do you see it that way? You do this all day long.
Sure. And speaking of speeding trains, his delivery at his big policy address
it was hardly a
on
speeding
Wednesday
train.
But it felt a little bit as though he was paying for the stage by the minute at the beginning of that speech. He was going a little fast, and it's one of the ironies that they wanted to get this train rolling as fast as possible. They wanted to kind of leave everyone else kind of back at the station, including Chris Christie. And it seems to be happening from the money end. Certainly, you're seeing donors, as we're reporting this morning, as others are reporting, Chris Christie donors in the land of Chris Christie are starting to turn their sights on Jeb instead. And so, there's a real ticking clock for Christie here to first of all, to maintain the support of people who've been in his camp for quite some time, and then also to be able to build on that, because you're looking at a Bush fundraising juggernaut of somewhere on the order of one fundraiser a day, and some of these fundraisers are for six figures ahead, and that's not something that
no,
you can
they're coming in
with
at $100,000 a pop,
right.
And he's walking out with $4 or $5 million just about every time. But you report this morning that Jeb is making inroads in some of these major donors, some of whom were Chris Christie people, not just around the country, but I mean in New Jersey.
In his backyard. That's right. And, this is serious. This is crunch time for Governor Christie. And, people are saying it's not just a matter of months that he has. It's possibly a matter of weeks in order to make some sort of big move that lets people know he's a real player here. You have not just Jeb Bush, you have other candidates who are trying to lay the claim to be, the Jeb Bush challenger. And right now, the rationale for Christie is growing very thin.
What's the holdup, honestly? Because, it's been no secret for a while that he at least wants to run for president. Why not jump in?
And that's the big question.
Yeah.
And the question is it, they're scrambling, figuring out exactly how to react to Jeb? Did they not expect it to be ramping up quite so fast? You've had this talk of the Jeb shock and awe campaign, and certainly there are quite a few Republican operatives on some campaigns who do appear to be in shock right now. Looking at the numbers that are rolling in, we're talking about, a $4 million day in Chicago. Those are numbers that it's right now it's Jeb Bush and it's everyone else. And, the question for a lot of people is where their money comes from. There's not just those questions about Chris Christie, where Jeb Bush is in his backyard, as you mentioned, but also, someone like Marco Rubio. Where's Marco Rubio's money going to come from, when they're the same Florida base? Same thing goes for, to some extent, the Texas candidates as well. We're talking Ted Cruz. Where's Ted Cruz's money coming from? If the traditional Bush family money, Texas family money kind of sticks with where it usually goes, and Rick Perry gets a lion's share of the rest. So there's really real dollars and cents questions that a lot of people are going to have to answer before they really.
Does Marco Rubio really think he can beat Jeb Bush in Florida on all fronts? Money, votes, and the whole thing?
This Marco Rubio question is so fascinating because,
because he would have to give up his seat to run.
That's right. And, when Jeb first, ramped up and made it clear that he was all in there, Marco Rubio got together in Florida with a bunch of his donors. And, there were questions from reporters who were thinking, hey, what are they doing? Are they trying to figure out whether there's a way for him to legitimately stay in the race? And instead of kind of slowing things down and pulling back, he ramped things up after that.
Yeah.
And so, at least for the moment, he's all in. And, there are reports this week that there are some very nervous Republicans in the Senate campaign arena who want to know exactly what his plans are and are trying to pressure him to make it clear that he's running in Florida in 2016. That's a question mark for them. And right now, he's resisting that. And so, at this moment, there doesn't seem to be, at least right now, any doubt in his mind that he's running for president.
Yes, lots happening on the political front. This week, we're discussing it all with Rebecca Sinderbrand from the Washington Post, political news editor. Invite you to join the conversation at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. There was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, This is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found on the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer. Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes now before the top of the hour. David Graham with The Atlantic joins us in studio at the top of the next hour, and then we'll be talking with one of America's leading labor leaders, Leo Gerard, president of the United Steelworkers of America, in the next hour. Peter?
Before we move on, I want a quick comment about Jeb Bush, or a quick question about Jeb Bush. How rusty is he? Because he's been out of the spotlight for a very, very long time in terms of speaking engagements and leading. Is he ready for this?
Yeah, that will.
Or I guess what are we seeing so far?
Well, the evidence so far is there's still quite a bit of rust left on the gears. I mean, particularly Wednesday, it got to the point where it was close to his message being overshadowed by the visuals and what we were hearing from him, whether it was Boko Haram instead of Boko Haram, whether it was confusing Iran and Iraq, whether the nuclear got people a bit. And
if I have to go through nuclear again, I have to go through another administration of nuclear, I might go nuclear.
Here's the irony, though. The irony, of course, and people have noted this time and again, is that in a scripted setting, he's not hit so great right now. When it comes to Q&A, he's pretty let it be. He sounds comfortable.
But
he sounds
on
relaxed.
a stump speech? We don't know that. But there were critics of his mispronunciations and his little factual errors. But one person stood up for him. Conan O'Brien told us about it last night. I thought we had that ready. Conan O'Brien. Yeah, here we go. No? All right. We'll get
what else is going on? Yesterday, during his speech on national security, Jeb Bush mispronounced Boko Haram and got confused between Iran and Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When reached for comment, his brother George W. said, "He sure sounds presidentiary to me." That's a quote.
There you go.
Now, these comparisons are going to be made all the time, no matter how often he says, "I'm my own man." Is the name Bush a handicap or a help?
I mean, the one thing you saw, and this is something that they're obviously aware of, is the Jeb W. Bush started kind of popping up on Twitter. which is something they're clearly looking to steer a little. They'd like to avoid those comparisons. He made that speech, the one line in that speech that
Is his middle name initial W?
It is not.
Oh, okay. All right. That would be too good to be true.
Jeb W. Bush.
Yeah.
So the one line in his speech, the one thing that they wanted to emphasize, they included in the excerpts. It was only one line in a 4,000-word speech, but it was, "I am my own man. I'm not my father. I'm not my brother." That said, of course, everyone noted the irony of the fact that the same day he gives that speech is when the campaign releases a list of advisors, 21. Nearly all of them are from the administrations of his father and his brother. Now, this is unavoidable. This is the Republican foreign policy establishment. But, to a certain extent, way to step on your own message.
Why release the list at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Right.
Very strange.
It is. Someone, I don't know who it was, I was impressed that they saw it this way. When you look at the Republican field today, it's not like who's ahead in the Republican primary, because there's more than one Republican primary. This person was arguing that there are maybe even four. There's the establishment primary, the Tea Party primary, the Libertarian primary, and the Social Conservative primary. Now, some people overlap a little, like Scott Walker, a little establishment, a little Tea Party, right? Rand Paul, a little Tea Party, but certainly Libertarian. Ted Cruz got the Tea Party. So, first question is, which of those tracks wins the nomination? Is it possible this time that any of the other tracks could overtake the establishment?
It's all, you never say never. The interesting thing about what we're seeing with Bush, and we saw this with Mitt Romney.
Who clearly leads the establishment primary.
Clearly leads the establishment primary is, at this point in the game, when we look at the polls, what we're really talking about is name recognition, right? And people's kind of instinctive reaction to someone. But for the most part, name recognition. A lot of these guys are unknown commodities. And we saw what happened last time as people would kind of temporarily shoot into the front as people kind of got familiar with them and then fade from view. Right now, what Bush has going for him is electability. It's the Mitt Romney kind of playbook all over again.
Sure.
And what happens is, there's no one, or at least not many people, that it's clear that they're Bush partisans in the same way that Ted Cruz and Rand Paul have rabid partisans who are in their camp because they are excited about them, not because they think they can win, but because they want them to be president. So they have natural defenders if they have a slip up, if something happens, if something goes wrong on the trail. These people immediately come to the fore and stand up for them. If Bush gets to the point where he says something or does something that makes him look slightly less electable, slightly less weak, that weakness builds on itself. It's the same as with, we saw with Mitt Romney. Inevitability has to be its own justification the moment that you look less than inevitable. People smell blood in the water.
Yeah.
That's the only hope for the other
It's
candidates.
just going to be interesting to see, because last time we had this whole field of clowns, almost, I would say, and then they ended up with the one grown-up in the room with Mitt Romney, who couldn't win. All right, and now it seems that there's a whole field of outsiders, but you've got the establishment guy, Jeb Bush. So the Republican Party going to end up saying...
A reminder that we're having this conversation in February of 2015.
Of 2015.
Of 2015.
All right, but what that means... The good news is that means we have many, many more opportunities to have this conversation.
So many more months.
Exactly.
So much to look forward to.
Rebecca, look forward to seeing you back here again next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
WashingtonPost.com, of course. We'll be back. Tell you what the president's up to today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
A few years ago, Plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like it back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, President Bob, a busy day today. Democratic National Committee is in town for their winter meeting, and the president will address them this morning at 11:10. Then he will participate in a roundtable at the DNC meeting back at the White House, and this afternoon he and the vice president will be meeting with the Democratic Governors Association in the old executive office building next door to the White House. We have a briefing with Josh Earnest today at 1 o'clock at the White House. And when we come back, David Graham, staff writer for The Atlantic, here in studio with us. And then we'll talk to Leo Gerard, leading the steelworkers in their big strikes today against several U.S. refineries.
This
Hour number 3
is the Bill Press Show.
West here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions. So from trees and other plants.
right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now. We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer. Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Not complaining, but 5 degrees in Washington, D.C. today.
I mean, you're not complaining.
Baby, it is cold outside. Not as cold here as it is in other parts of the country, but we are experiencing the Arctic blast. But still here with you, and glad to be here with you to bring you the news of the day, such as it is from Washington, D.C. and around the country and around the globe. And most importantly, saying hello to you and giving you a chance to tell us what you think it all means to you. Here with you on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide. Here with you also on Free Speech TV nationwide and on TawkrTV worldwide, our video stream at youtube.com/TawkrTV. Thanks so much for being part of the program today. And again, don't forget, weigh in on the issues of the day. 866-55-PRESS, our toll-free number. Your comments welcome on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. We got the team here together today, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, happy Friday.
Friday.
God, I'm so glad the weekend's here.
Right?
Almost. Another hour to go. We're into the weekend. Alicia Cruz here on the phones to take your calls again at 866-55-PRESS. And we're looking good today thanks to our videographer, Cyprian Bolding. Joining us today to help us through the big news of the day, good friend of the program, staff writer for The Atlantic magazine, David Graham. Hey, David, nice to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
All right, good. And particularly in the cold, braving the cold. We got extra points for braving the cold here.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. You get the Spirit Award.
He had to fight Metro this morning, too.
Right.
Really? I'm sure Metro was running great. They always do really well when these types of things pop up.
So President Obama wanted to escape the cold yesterday. He went to Chicago. And part of the reason, but he signed executive orders. Does John Boehner know this? He'll probably sue him. Signed executive orders designating 3 new national monuments, one of which is this Pullman Center, the old Pullman town where the Pullman factory and the people, the town of the people who work there, and designated that as a national monument, whereupon the president made history.
It's always been a dream of mine to be the first president to designate a national monument in sub-zero conditions.
There it is, right there along the lake, and the president.
Congratulations.
Yeah, right. No, I think it's close to the lake, but it's in the south part of Chicago. And the president said, actually, we got a new name for Chicago.
Also known as Chiberia.
Yeah, I don't know what we call Washington, but it's getting pretty close. And it's not supposed to get any warmer, right? What's it high today?
The high today is like 12, I think. I think that's what I said earlier.
High is up to 30 tomorrow.
Great.
Positively balmy.
Yeah.
With
God.
snow.
Get the shorts and T-shirt.
Yeah, right.
And so last weekend, President Obama was last weekend he was in Palm Springs, but the weekend before, he was on a golf course here.
It was nice here in D.C. like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I know.
It was in the 60s
That's
or
crazy.
something. He was out playing
That's
golf.
crazy weather. Anyhow.
Anyhow,
So the type of stuff you read about in the Bible.
Lots to talk about today. David Graham here with the first half hour. Then Leo Gerard from the Steelworkers Union, president of the United Steelworkers of America, joins us. We'll get right to the hot news of the day, but first, Peter.
This
big stories
is the
here.
Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Yes, you mentioned that the president was in Chicago yesterday. He announced the designation of a couple of new national monuments. The Honolulu National Monument in Hawaii, where Japanese American citizens and prisoners of war were held, and then the Browns Canyon National Monument in Colorado, a popular whitewater rafting destination, and the Pullman neighborhood. One other thing that we're going to hear out of this is the Every Kid in a Park initiative. where the president is.
I love this new initiative,
this is
by
great.
the way. Yeah.
So
right.
if you have a fourth grader, every fourth grader in the nation is going to get a pass that allows them to enter all of the national parks with their family.
For 2 years, I think.
For a year. For 1 year for now.
Yeah.
Is the plan. So, isn't that great?
That's awesome.
Yeah. As the parent of a
Do you have a fourth grader?
I graze in fourth grade.
You ought to take then like 3 months off and just visit all the national parks.
Well,
in the West.
you know what we were actually
Seriously.
talking about this last
Yeah,
night.
Peter, take 3 months off.
Magnus is in first grade, so by the time that he's in fourth grade, we'll be able to do a lot longer hikes and things like that. We're going to do a whole big Western swing in like 3 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Go see all that stuff. What I have planned in the next 3 years. Yesterday, according to Reddit, a Redditor got online, took a snapshot of a very official-looking black SUV in Atlanta and said, quote, I was grabbing lunch with some co-workers at Chinese Buddha in Midtown and saw an SUV parked on the sidewalk with a boot on it. Turns out that was the vehicle of Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed.
No.
Who parked illegally and got a boot put on his SUV.
Whoa.
No one's above the law.
No one's above the
You know
law.
what? Yep, right. I like this.
No word from the mayor yet, or whether no confirmation that was something that he got taken care of in a timely manner. But you can't park there, man. And I mentioned earlier how Volvo.
I doubt that he was driving.
Oh, I'm sure he wasn't driving. But I mentioned earlier that Volvo said that by 2017 they're going to be the first major car manufacturer to have a driverless car on the market. Rumors are also swirling, this is according to Bloomberg, that Apple is working on their version of a car. It's going to be not a driverless car. It's going to be an electric vehicle that they plan to have on the market by 2020, and it's going to be fully integrated with all of the Apple technology and yada, 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 yada. But we'll keep you posted on any details that we hear as this comes up. But for right now, it's just a rumor.
I mean, give me a break, right? I have an iPhone. I have an iPad. I got all this. Now I have to.
You got to get that. You got that
I've
iCar.
got the Power Book and everything.
That's
now
right.
I've got to get an Apple car.
That's right.
And with It'll your look watch. really good. It'll be really overpriced.
Yeah.
Really well.
Who wouldn't want that?
Right.
It'll probably be super glitchy in the first model. So, yeah. Go for it.
All right, there we go. Thank you, Peter. Well, David, you reported on a very, let's start here, a very unusual occurrence in Texas yesterday. When we think about the growing movement and acceptance of marriage equality, same-sex marriage in this country, you don't usually think of Texas as being leading the way, right?
That's right.
What happened?
So there's one legally married couple in the state right now, gay couple. There's a weird
And this happened when?
This happened yesterday morning. So it's a really weird case. There's a federal case pending. It's in the circuit court now. In the meantime, a probate judge in Travis County, where Austin is, ruled that the ban was unconstitutional in a state case. So he just very specific thing.
Yeah.
This couple sued, using this as precedent, said we need an emergency license. One half of the couple has ovarian cancer. They're worried about her health, so they sued for the license. Judge issued it. He blocked the waiting period. They went to the courthouse, got married, registered it, and now they're married. Now, the Attorney General, who's Republican, immediately pushed back, tried to get it blocked by the state Supreme Court. The Supreme Court blocked any further marriages. And it's not clear what the status of this marriage is, but it appears that it's legal. So they're the only legally married gay couple in Texas right now.
I
smell
love
a
it.
situation comedy.
Oh, yeah.
The only gay couple and legally married gay couple in Texas.
God, yeah. The best little whorehouse in Texas.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you could go take off on that. But that's funny. And they managed to maneuver through this little legal loophole.
Oh, yeah. They had the rabbi ready. They got it done immediately. They registered before they could do anything.
Good for them.
Yeah.
But the idea, right, also, that this one same-sex couple marriage in Texas is going to destroy the state of Texas, right? I'm sure that's what the Attorney General is saying. If he went to the Supreme Court, he probably said,
Oh, he says they'll defend marriage, and Texas voters voted in 2005 to uphold traditional marriage, and it's invalid, and it's erroneous.
Remarkable. Like, if I had to go through that much stuff to get married, there's no way I'd get married.
They tried 8 years ago, too. So this couple has been on this.
my
They went and they tried, and they were denied, of course, and this time they made it.
good for them.
Yeah. I would have given up so long ago.
The next thing you know, Alabama's going to be allowing same-sex marriage. Oh, that's right. They did that last week. I mean, when you crack the Deep South, it's all over, man.
Well, Austin's
it is
weird,
all
you
over.
know.
Yeah.
You know, the clerk of court said she couldn't issue more licenses, but she's been on the record supporting marriage equality. They've been together for 31 years and have 2 daughters. So
I mean,
it's a little weird blue pod in Texas.
Yeah. Good.
So basically, you have to, if you want to get married in Texas, you just have to sue and wait several years, and then you too can enjoy marital bliss.
You have been writing also about a little flap around Rudy Giuliani, who made those unfortunate comments. Well, I think they're unfortunate. He thinks they're great. At a little dinner party the other night for Scott Walker in New York. So he started out, we don't have the audio of that evening, but he started out, according to those who were there, Politico reported it first, saying, quote, "I do not believe, and I know this is a horrible thing to say, but..." Isn't the first rule of politics, that's where you stop?
You can see Rudy realizing it's a bad idea, but he can't help himself. He's got to keep going.
Yeah. You know, if you say, I should never say this, but, then you should never say this, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So last night, so he goes on to say, President Obama doesn't love America, doesn't love you, doesn't love me. He's different than all the rest of us. I wasn't brought up the way we were with the same love of this country. And he goes on and on. He always criticizes America. He's never said anything good about America. Every time he talks, it seems to get the case. He makes a worse case. Last night on Fox News, he doesn't have a home anywhere except anywhere on Fox News. He was asked by Megyn Kelly, so would you like to pull back a little bit, retract a little bit? Not Rudy.
Not at all. I want to repeat it. The reality is, from all that I can see of this president, all that I've heard of him, he apologizes for America. He criticizes America. He talks about the Crusades and how the Christians were barbarians, leaves out the second half of the sentence, that the Muslims were barbarians also. He sees Christians slaughtered and doesn't stand up and hold a press conference, although he holds a press conference for the situation in Ferguson. He sees Jews being killed for anti-Semitic reasons, doesn't stand up and hold a press conference. This is an American president I've never seen before.
Yeah. But let's forget the facts for a second here, because he's wrong on all the facts. But what's the point here? I mean, is this where the Republican Party is going in 2016?
Well, it's interesting. All the things he talked about there were about religion. None of them really seemed to be about patriotism. None of them really dealt with love of country, did they?
Good point. Yeah. No, right.
It's interesting. I can't believe at this stage we're still talking about this.
That he's not a true American. He doesn't love the country.
Yeah.
And boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
I thought we would have exhausted all the fuel for it.
I had the
We're
same
6
thought,
years
honestly.
in.
Like, maybe I was a little naive to think that we'd moved past this whole Obama isn't a real American, doesn't love America.
Wasn't born here, not an
That's
American.
all of that.
Doesn't have the birth certificate, not a legitimate president. I thought we put that behind us, at least in the first year of the Obama presidency, but obviously not with Rudy.
Yeah.
But here's what stuns me more than anything, is that Rudy Giuliani is not alone in the sense that Scott Walker hasn't condemned. The dinner was for Scott Walker. Scott Walker hasn't condemned what he said. Bobby Jindal went out of his way to say, I support him.
Yeah, and you've seen people saying this over the years repeatedly.
Yeah.
And, I think there's a certain amount of, look, there are different conceptions of what it means to be American, and this is a sort of sense of being under threat. It's an old school sense of what is American. They can tell that they are no longer dominant, and I think they're lashing out over that.
And what's un-American about pointing out, number one, that Christians have killed a lot of people in the name of religion too over the centuries.
Absolutely.
Right? Killed a lot of Jews. Christians killed a lot of Jews. Killed a lot of Muslims in the name of religion. Or what's un-American about pointing out that this country didn't always get everything right?
Well, that's what you see in this Oklahoma case where they're trying to cut AP history classes because they say the class isn't patriotic enough. It's teaching America's blemishes. It seems to me it's very American to look at the warts and, admit the mistakes and try to learn from those.
Yeah.
It's a reaction against that.
It seems to me that you can love your country and still say slavery was wrong. I think you can love your country and still say annihilating the American Indian, Native Americans, was wrong. I think you can say I love my country, but the war in Iraq and the war in Vietnam were wrong. Or maybe not. Not in Rudy's world, right?
I wish you loved America, Bill. I wish you loved America.
I'd love it more if Rudy Giuliani weren't here. 20 minutes after the hour with David Graham from The Atlantic. Why aren't more Republicans standing up to say Rudy Giuliani does not speak for us? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, David Graham's here in studio with us from The Atlantic, talking about, among other things, Rudy Giuliani's comments. President Obama does not love America, which he continues to make, given every repeat on every occasion that he has. Stirred up a lot of passion himself, including from Joey out in Chicago. Hello, Joey.
Good morning. What does he mean? He didn't cheat on his wife and divorce his wife and cheat on his girlfriend and screw over his family? Is that what he means, like growing up like an American?
Oh, good.
That guy himself, Bill. He better check himself. I don't. You don't talk about the president that way.
Yeah, people who live in glass houses, huh? Yeah, I forgot about that little story. Rudy, thank you, Joey. Rudy, we're sleeping on the couch there in
that's right.
in Gracie Mansion with. Yeah, he had a hard time keeping. He was a busy man. He had a hard time keeping track of all of his mistresses and his wife all at the same time.
It's a hard job.
Yeah, but he loves America. Not all he loves. David, Jeb Bush seems like a runaway train here, huh?
Well, yeah, I don't know what the goal was in his speech. It was awfully vague. He starts off saying he's not his brother and he's not his father, but didn't then offer much evidence of what he was and how he was different from them.
But he's his own man.
Right.
I am my
so
own
he says,
as he told us.
But I'm my own man, and my views are shaped by my own thinking and my own experiences.
Yeah, right. But what is that? So what would he have done differently? He hasn't told us, right?
Not a whole lot of detail.
At the same time, whatever pundits like you and me think about the speech, what or a reporter. What counts?
Fine line.
What counts for him is the money that he's raising.
Yeah, he made a lot of money in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean,
$4 million some dollars.
He gave a lousy speech and he walked out with $4 million.
Mm-hmm. Pretty good deal.
That's a pretty sweet grift.
Not a bad day, right? Yeah. If he had given a good speech, it might have been $8 million. But I don't know. No, it had nothing to do with it. The point is, I guess, it seems that people are coalescing around him as the serious establishment candidate in this primary and squeezing other people like Chris Christie to the sidelines. You agree?
Yeah. It looks like he might get Mitt Romney's money guy, Spencer Zwick, which would be a big pickup. It does seem like all of that is, the invisible primary is looking good for him.
Yeah, and so Marco Rubio, Florida's other rising star.
Well, Rubio's still doing stuff. He's hiring people in early states. He seems to be raising money. I mean, I just have no idea how to judge how much support Bush will really have when he gets out there and how much it will matter. Yeah. So he's falling in polls already. I mean, none of these polls mean anything, but he had that spike and everyone said, oh, Jeb is, insurmountable, and now suddenly he's falling. So I
think there is some cause for concern, the fact that he's been out of office for so long and he's been out of the spotlight for so long.
Well, and you could see in his speech he was rusty. He was beat up for getting the facts wrong, but he got those things, he fixed them immediately. He said Iraq, I mean Iran. And so he knew what he was talking about. He wasn't fresh, he wasn't ready, he wasn't rehearsed, and that's, you can just see the rust on him.
Yeah, okay. Well, it is fun to watch, even more fun when we can watch it with you. David, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
David Graham at The Atlantic, theatlantic.com. Leo Gerard from the Steelworkers next.
Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, it is The Bill Press Show. We are live in our nation's capital and our studio right here on Capitol Hill. Brought to you today by the United Steelworkers and their dynamic fighter president, international president, Leo Gerard. The United Steelworkers, of course, good men and women of the Steelworkers Union, North America's largest industrial union, representing over 1.2 million active and retired members. And, of course, representing those brave men and women who are now walking the picket lines at several refineries across the country. Every time I see a news article about this, the strike of the steelworkers against the refineries, I think of the good work of the Steelworkers Union and their president, Leo Gerard, who joins us on our news line this morning. Hello, Leo. Good to talk to you.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Good. Thanks for taking time for us this morning. So first of all, tell us, how many plants, how many workers involved in this ongoing action?
Well, at the moment, we have about a little over 5,000. And the reason I say at the moment is that we decided that what we would do is increase the number of people who are out as the negotiation goes if we don't reach a settlement. So we first went out with 7, then we went out to 9, then we went out to 11.
Yeah.
And probably later today we're going to meet and evaluate what's happened in the last 3 days in bargaining, and we'll probably put 3 more. And these are all plants, local unions, refineries that have voted months ago to be able to authorize withdrawing their labor if respectable settlement wasn't reached.
I might have lost track of your math, but are you up to 11 now? Is that it? Before?
Yeah.
11 as of now, with about 5,000 workers then. And how long has this been ongoing? I know it didn't just start.
The bargaining has been going on for a month and a half. The first refineries that were out were about 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, at the very end of the month. So we're at, what is it, today's the 20th? So 20 days.
20 days.
And the thing that's really, really disturbing, Bill, is that the issues that are keeping us apart, we're not even at the point of bargaining the money yet, and what the rates will be, are all occupational health and safety related.
Well, that's what I've seen, that the issues really seem to be related to the safety of these workers in these plants and how long they have to work before they can get a break, for example, right?
Let me give you and your listeners some statistics.
Yeah.
You may have seen the explosion on television at
Torrance.
At Torrance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on average, there's a fire or an explosion in the industry every 8 days.
Whoa!
And I want to say that's on average.
Yeah.
We've had 27 people killed in the last 5 years. We have about 20% underemployment in the refineries, which means that many of our operators and maintenance work 15, 16, 17, 18, 20 days in a row, 12-hour shifts with no time off. Although when we had the large Texas City explosion about 10 years ago, there was a high-profile Blue Ribbon Commission, and they indicated that fatigue was probably a contributing factor, not the factor, but a contributing factor. So in the last set of negotiations, we negotiated what we thought was a fatigue standard. And the industry has been manipulating that so they could manipulate people's schedules. The 20% underemployment, they try to fill with overtime and or calling in outside labor, some of which have never worked in a refinery, some of which have, some of which may have worked in a different refinery, but every refinery has its own characteristics. And so those are the issues we're trying to bargain about. What's a reasonable approach to how you have a decent fatigue standard? How do you have proper manpower? How do you make sure the people that are working in the refinery are having proper training before you let them loose in the refinery?
And that they're
all
working,
those kind of things.
And they're working under safe working conditions while they're there. Of course.
Yeah. And then the industry, quite frankly, said to us, tried to say to us, it's none of our business. Well, they can go to hell. It is our business.
I would say so. If it's not your business, whose is it, right? It's a worker's business, and the union representing the workers. Now, are you at the negotiating table? Are talks underway now or ongoing?
Yep. That we made an information request, and again, this is pretty shocking. We made an information request that we're entitled to under the law. At first, the company resisted. We could have taken an easy route and then just filed an unfair labor practice, but that would have delayed things for a long time, so we pushed them a lot harder, and they finally said they'd go back and gather the information, so we suspended talks for 4 days. They went and gathered the information, and they came back to us, and we were a little bit optimistic because they said when they came back, we didn't realize we had this much outside work going on. That they didn't know. They didn't know what the hell was going on in the refineries, and we're telling them.
Yeah.
And we're trying to negotiate some decent standards. But then once they got themselves knowledgeable, they tried to find another way to tell us that they would give us some ideas, but nothing that would be enforceable. Well, give me a break.
Right. Now, are you dealing with 11 different refineries and their management, or is there one central control that that you can come up with a set of standards that would apply across the board?
Yeah. Here's the structure that's been in place for the last 20 years. Shell has been the agreed-upon lead company, agreed upon by the industry and by the union for the last 20 years. And quite frankly, until recently, in bargaining, Shell was generally what we would consider a responsible leader of the industry. This time, Shell came to the bargaining table with a complete new team that had never done any negotiations in the industry, and in fact, some of them are brand new to the industry, and have no sort of concept of the historical record of the bargaining, and just tried to take a hard-ass position. And in fact, the talks originally broke off because we wanted to talk about health care. Our members have what's called an 80-20 plan. That means that they pay 20% of the premium, the company pays 80. Well, if your health care is $1,000 a month because you work in a refinery, health care costs are a little higher. So if your health care cost is $1,000 a month and you're paying 20%, that's $200 a month. Times 12 months, that's $2,400. Plus, you have a single, if you're single, a $3,500 out-of-pocket max, and if you're a family, $7,500 out-of-pocket max. So if you got a sick child or someone in the family who needs a lot of health care, a lot of medical care, you can be out $25,000 during a 3-year collective agreement. And the richest company on the planet, that kind of copay, and the copays are pretty standard, that kind of out-of-pocket max doesn't exist in any major industry where we represent workers.
Right, except...
And this is the richest industry on the planet.
Wow. Yeah. Leo, let me ask you about, I have to ask you, at the time we have left, Leo Gerard, our guest, president of the United Steelworkers of America, will keep up to date with you on the progress in these negotiations for the strike.
We have a great website that everything's on.
Good.
If you go to usw.org.
usw.org, usw.org.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm not very techie, but I
okay,
do that.
You got it. Now, were you surprised to hear today a statement that says we are raising the minimum wage from $7.25 to $9 an hour for our employees, and next year it will be $10 an hour, and that company is Walmart, of all companies?
I was shocked.
Yeah.
And at first I thought, good. Then secondly, I thought, not enough.
Should be 15. Right.
Should be 15. And again, I don't want to characterize it like the oil industry, but they don't give enough people full-time employment. The majority of their workers are working part-time. Well, you ought to raise the rate to $15 and turn them into real jobs, and have a workforce that is there 40 hours a week, making a living, and providing health care and doing those kinds of things in a real society, instead of having 3 times as many employees and giving everybody, 15, 16, 18, 20 hours a week.
Now, while the steelworkers strike against the refineries is ongoing, there's also this the big operation, if you will, whatever, on the West Coast with the dock workers and the shipping companies. President Obama sent Labor Secretary Tom Perez out there to try to bring the two parties together. What's the latest on that again, and what are the big issues?
Well, the issues there are working conditions and economics. And again, we have a very good relationship with the dock workers. In fact, they've been to some of our West Coast picket lines. Their Teamsters do the trucking. The dock workers do the loading and unloading of the ships. And they want to have more control over the quality of their work, whether they can schedule hours, whether they can have time, what's the rate going to be, how you're going to get people trained into the system. The technology that they're bringing into the docks are, you can imagine, terribly sophisticated. And I guess the thing that's good for the dock workers but not so good for us is that they're bringing all that Chinese shit in.
Yeah,
Excuse the language.
Yeah, we got it. Okay. But I tell you what bothers me about this is that every story I've seen about this strike on the West Coast and the different ports, it talks about how terrible it is for all these ships got to be sitting out there, right? And all these containers sitting on these ships. And nobody's talking about the conditions for the workers who are unloading these ships.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it is terrible that the ships are out there, and it's terrible that management won't come and negotiate a responsible settlement. Bill, I've been doing this kind of work with collective bargaining for over 40 years. And I've done it in 2 countries between every coast. I've never, ever been in a set of negotiations with any group of workers where they wanted their company to be economically punished. Mm-hmm. But I've been in hundreds of negotiations where the workers wanted to be treated fairly.
Yeah.
I've been in hundreds of negotiations where the workers are saying, you're asking us to do work you haven't trained us for. Train us how to do it. And the employer doesn't want to spend the money.
Yeah. Well,
the dock workers that's hard, dangerous work.
Damn right it is. Leo Gerard, you are on the front lines, and we are glad you're there for the front lines, fighting not only for your members, but for all the rest of us. Busy days for you, my friend, so thanks for spending some time with us this morning.
Good stuff. Keep up the work.
All right. Thank you, man. Leo Gerard, President of the United Steelworkers of California, of America. We're good.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished when they incarcerate their children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, here we go. Wrapping up on, what day is it of the week?
Friday.
All right. We like Fridays for many reasons. Start off with Susan Page, and we end up with Clips of the Week, where we look... Hell of a Friday. Look back at our favorite sound bites of the week. Sarah Palin appearing on the Saturday Night Live anniversary special. Wondering, will anybody pay me to run again?
Number 5.
Governor Palin, welcome.
Yeah, I was just curious, Jerry, how much do you think Lauren Michaels would pay me if I were to run in 2016?
Run for president, Sarah? I don't think there's a number too big.
Yeah, indeed. It would be fun again. No, John Boehner wouldn't really shut down the Department of Homeland Security, would he?
Number 4.
What if the Department of Homeland Security funding runs out?
Well, then Senate Democrats should be to blame, very simply.
And you're prepared to let that happen?
Certainly. The House is active. We've done our job.
Yeah, certainly. Shut it down.
Let it go.
Looks like it. The deadline is next week. We'll see what happens. There is a winner. No, there was a winner in the Westminster Dog Show this week. She was treated to lunch at Sardi's.
Oh, nice.
The day after she won, had a little steak there on a plate. They had to feed it to her. You know, they didn't just let her go down on the floor and clean it all up. And we're talking about Miss P, who happens to be a beagle.
Number 3.
For the best in show is the beagle.
Miss P, she beat out the cousin of Sonny Obama.
Yeah.
Portuguese water dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, she had a good day there. Beautiful little dog. Conan O'Brien points out the big hit at the box office these days is 50 Shades of Grey, but it has created a little stir-up at a couple of theaters.
Number 2.
Well, here's the story. He's going to be okay, but in a Glasgow movie theater showing 50 Shades of Grey, a man was attacked by 3 rowdy women.
Oh, my.
Yeah. The police handcuffed the women, so their plan worked perfectly. Yeah.
You kind of have to know what the book is all about to get that joke, but
yeah.
I think most people do, at any rate. And finally, Jeb Bush. Yeah, it was billed up as the best foreign policy speech ever given by any politician at any time. Didn't quite make up to that mark, but Jeb Bush did get in the one phrase that everybody was waiting for.
Number 1.
But I'm my own man, and my views are shaped by my own thinking and my own experiences.
Sure they are.
And if you don't believe I'm my own man, look at my list of 21 foreign policy advisors, 19 of whom worked for my daddy or for my brother, and the other 2 of whom worked for my mother. Jeb Bush. He is his own man. We'll wrap it up for Friday. Coming back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, it's been a good show today, if I must say so myself. I think we buried Rudy Giuliani, which,
happily,
frankly, the leaders of the Republican Party should do. I keep waiting for them to come up and condemn his remarks. And I think we have seen the big change and big shift in momentum in the Republican primary this week with Jeb Bush, despite a kind of lackluster performance in Chicago, pulling ahead. So we can leave all that behind us, go into the weekend, rest up and relax, and get ready to stay up late Sunday night watching the Oscars. You know, I'd still like to see Boyhood win. I hope Birdman doesn't, but who knows? Yeah. Who knows what could happen? And we will come back and dissect it all with you on Monday morning. So have a good one, folks. We'll be looking for you
This is
Monday
the
morning.
Bill Press Show.